One of the reasons why the Kenyan people are so resilient is because of their ability to laugh, even to laugh at themselves. Just before Christmas, one of you here decided that Kumekucha must laugh. And they sent me a video of a lady called Pearl, aka Lulu, a Mzungu from Ohio, United States of America, who speaks with a Luya accent better than most Kenyans can. And this very American lady is married to a very Luya man from Kakamega, or to make people understand more, from Kachmega. And amazingly, Pearl can shift very quickly and effortlessly from being very American to being very Luya. That video had me in stitches. Actually, my laugh has not been allowed to go on holiday. It has been very busy. I mean, Kenyans are just hilarious. I find myself a lot of times laughing so much that tears come out of my eyes. I can hardly stand. I have to at least sit down and laugh fast. Now, it is certainly not true that Lillian Muli's favorite Christmas carol, this festive season, was the following. Single bells, single bells, single all the way. No. It's not true. It is also not true that the Santa Claus sent to Githurai for the Christmas wa Githurai aliwekewa mchele. I'm telling you, Kenyans are just hilarious. You know, there's been a photograph on social media doing the rounds of Father Christmas blacked out on a street somewhere in Kenya. Unfortunately, this is a very common sight in Kenya over Christmas, especially in the rural areas. People drink themselves to unconsciousness. And people used various captions on the same photograph. One was from Murang'a, eti huyu ni Father Christmas wa Murang'a, na ako hivi na hata tujatoka church. Loose translation, this is our Santa Claus, and he's blacked out on the street, and we have not even come out of church to start our Christmas celebrations. And so some hilarious smart aleck used the same photograph and put the caption that Father Christmas wa Githurai amewekewa mchele. Now, I'm surprised that younger Kenyans still use this mchele term. What it means, it used to be very common in my days. You go in for a drink and some nice ladies want to rob you. And so they put something into your drink, that makes you pass out. And usually it looked like rice, mchele. And when you wake up, everything in your pocket is gone. And of course, those who put the rice, or mchele, are also gone. I'm so proud of Kenyans because these jokes are being made at the end of a very difficult year. Extremely difficult. A year full of very crazy things. The most horrific murders you can ever think of happened in 2018. And in both cases of very young girls. Some of the most horrifying, gruesome road accidents I've ever seen in my lifetime happened in 2018. Some of the most horrifying damage to Kenyan wallets and pockets that are supposed to have money happened in 2018. And as far as finances go, all the signs are telling us, mambo bado. But despite all this, Kenyans are still laughing, and Kenyans are still making others laugh. Now, how heroic can that be? Because research has shown, and everybody knows, that laughter is the best medicine. It is the kind of medicine that science has not been able to replicate so far. And I doubt whether they'll be able to produce a pill or medication that has the same effect as laughter on a human being and their health. Anyway, most of you come here for serious politics, And in a minute, we're going to get down to some very serious siasa. But before that, some quick domez. You know, domestic issues that you have to sort out in your house or in your family, because the Kumekucha channel is one huge family. Very loving family, I can tell you. Now, if you look in my previous video, one of you left a comment that brought tears to my eyes. They said, Kumekucha, where can we leave Mbuzi for you to collect? Now, of course, you know I'm anonymous, so the idea here was, for instance, somebody goes and leaves Mbuzi at a corner of Uhuru Park, and then I'm somewhere hiding, and I see them walk away. Then when I'm sure they're out of sight, I quickly come and untie the Mbuzi and go and have my Christmas. Now, as most Kenyans know, this kind of scenario is impossible, to do in Nairobi. Because if you leave Mbuzi for me, even if we arranged and you left Mbuzi for me at Uhuru Park, before I could get to it, it'll be gone. And if I try to resist, chances are that I'd be lifted up and my pockets ransacked. At knife point. That's our Kenya today. Unfortunate, but that's the reality. I'm not very dumb and I'm not a genius, but at least I know this person did not mean Mbuzi literally. I can see that you must have started getting worried. And I really appreciate from the bottom of my heart this kind gesture, especially at these very, very difficult times, financially, that our country is going through. And this affects even Kenyans in the diaspora, because you're constantly pestered to send money home. Nikubaya. Anyway, there are two ways you can leave Mbuzi for me. One, you can Google Kumekucha Kshs at Patreon. Patreon is a website that allows you to support artists, and even people who produce videos like myself on YouTube. And so when you Google Kumekucha Kshs at Patreon, it will take you straight to my Patreon page. And it is very easy to load, from any Visa, debit, credit card. And that way you'll have left Mbuzi for me. And of course, I'll be very appreciative. The other way is, of course, to use the M-Pesa number you see on your screens right now. It's the usual M-Pesa we use for Club 1999. And definitely I'll get that Mbuzi. There are a lot of things we want to do on this channel. There are a lot of things we want to do on Club 1999. But of course, finances is always a hindrance, an obstacle. And I also appreciate that not all of us can join Club 1999, for various reasons, sometimes financial. Because that is the main way, that we finance this channel. And we're able to pay our bills, costs of research, producing the videos, etc., etc. Now, the other quick issue also came from the comments. Some of us here are feeling very left out, and I sincerely apologize for that. Of course, I'm talking about our other brothers especially in Africa, Tanzanians, Ugandans, people who regularly come to this channel, faithful Kumekuchans. Don't worry, guys, I've not forgotten you, and I will never forget you. Okay? The fact is that we've just been through the Jamhuri Day celebrations, which can get very Kenyan, obviously. But the good news is that in the new year, we even hope to expand further our coverage, especially of the countries Tanzania and Uganda, where there's a lot unfolding right now. And chances are that we'll even go further than that, because there are very interesting things that are unfolding on our continent. It seems that the African Spring has taken off. You remember the Arab Spring? Well, it seems the African Spring is well on its way. Because as I make this recording, there are still some very serious riots going on in Sudan over the standards of living and an irresponsible government. And the same is happening in Tunisia. And there are rumblings, very serious ones, in 3 or 4 other African countries. So African Spring, pop! My hope and prayer is that change will come to Africa, at minimal cost, in terms of loss of life and so on. Now, quickly on to politics. There is a theory very many of us on this channel have. And the theory goes something like this. President Uhuru Kenyatta and Deputy President William Ruto are playing mind games with Raila Odinga and Kenyans. They are pretending, they are acting, because come 2022, Uhuru will hand over power to Ruto and he'll ensure that Ruto is the next president of Kenya. Somebody even pointed out that the body language at Ruto's graduation recently, where he got a PhD, that person reckons that Dr. William Samoei Ruto's body language and the president's body language suggested that the two are still very close. They're tight friends, just like they've always been since 2013. Yep, that is what some of us believe. And I must start by saying I like the way they're thinking. This is the kind of thinking where you don't want to rule out any possibilities. You're covering all your bases, and that is good. However, this also reminds me of my early days of political analysis, under the tutorship of my political lecturer. In those days, I loved conspiracy theories, and I would never allow my thinking and my reasoning to come in the way or to block a good, exciting conspiracy theory. You know, many times the truth can be boring. It's true. And so, a conspiracy theory, which is very exciting, very mind-boggling, comes in handy. However, this is something people need to resist if they want to analyze politics accurately. I remember my bout of political theoretica, if I can call it that, was quickly cured by my political lecturer. And he cured it with 2 words. And I'll repeat them exactly the way he used to say them. What rubbish! And I would feel very stupid and not very clever. And then he would tear apart my theory with a lot of history, background knowledge on Kenya, and a lot of sound political reasoning. And so I was very quickly cured of this disease. Anyway, let's use some political reasoning here to disprove this theory. The first thing we need to ask is the following. Is this theory consistent with what Uhuru Kenyatta wants? Is it consistent with what DP William Ruto wants? Very simple questions, but very instructive questions. Because human nature is controlled by motivation. What is the motive? Deputy President William Samoei Ruto was kingmaker in 2013. He was the main reason Uhuru Kenyatta became president. And therefore, it is only natural that he wants to be the next president of Kenya. What Ruto wants is very clear and very obvious. Okay, let's move to the president. The president's biggest concern by far is what we have always called on this channel an exit strategy. As a powerful president, you always naturally have to step on many powerful toes. And a chief concern must be what will happen to you when you leave office. And assurances are not enough. In 2002, when Daniel Arap Moi was leaving power, Kalonzo Musyoka started a very spirited campaign, mainly in the Rift Valley, of reassuring people. He reassured people from the Rift Valley that if he were to take over from Moi, he would be their safest bet. He would take care of them. But Moi himself, of course, knew that reassurances from the person who will take over from you are not enough. Moi knew that the country then was already changing very rapidly, and people would start asking questions and bringing to account the things people had done before. Indeed, since independence. And that is one of the main reasons why he settled on Uhuru Kenyatta. It was very simple logic, because you couldn't bring down the Mois without bringing down the Kenyattas as well. Those were the two families that had ruled Kenya until then. In the case of Uhuru Kenyatta, his exit strategy is even more complex. There are way too many variables to look at. And that is why, when you think about it deeply, his only option, or rather his safest option, is a change of the constitution. A change of constitution that will allow him to remain in politics in a powerful position, even if it is not the most powerful position. Because the biggest problem is that the House of Mumbi do not have a heir. They don't have somebody to take over from Uhuru. And therefore, the motivation to do this is wider and stronger, because even the very powerful Mount Kenya insiders want this to happen. To them, this must happen. Now, of course, this is very, very contrary to what William Ruto wants, because a change of the constitution would mean that there would be no powerful presidency for him to inherit. And the deputy president is certainly not interested in being a figurehead. He wants power, real power, like the power Uhuru Kenyatta enjoys currently. And of course, that will never happen if there's a referendum to change the constitution, especially a successful referendum, which looks very, very likely at the moment. Because the biggest driving force for all Kenyans is ending tensions during general elections, where a president has to be elected. The long and short of what I'm trying to say is that the deputy president and the president cannot want the same thing. It is impossible. In fact, historically, presidents and their vice presidents have never seen eye to eye, especially on the issue of succession. And also, politically, it has been very difficult for somebody to step out of being a vice president into being elected president. Now, let me give you a solid example of that, that will be able to illustrate this point very clearly. In the United States of America, a democracy that is 242 years old, only four men, have been able to move from being vice president to being elected president. Those are very few, especially when you consider that virtually every single vice president in history has wanted to take over, to succeed, and be the next president. Those four are, of course, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, both who took over the presidency at a time when the political climate favored such a thing, because both these were founding fathers. And so in my view, technically, only two men, the other two which I'll mention in a minute, have managed this feat of moving from being a vice president in a very fluid political situation where there are no founding fathers and into being president. And those two men are Martin Van Buren and George H.W. Bush, who passed on recently. The nature of politics, where there's a president and a vice president, is such that it is extremely difficult, very difficult, for a vice president to get elected president immediately after they've been vice president. You know, the other great hindrance to somebody achieving this is that naturally people want change. After a certain president leaves office, people want real change. And in many instances, the vice president is seen as a continuation of the same presidency. And voters the world over will always gravitate towards a change. And this is why it is very instructive that both Martin Van Buren and George H.W. Bush, the people who managed this feat of moving from vice president to president, were both one-term presidents. They never got re-elected. George H.W. Bush lost to Bill Clinton, who looked like a very, very weak opponent as the campaign started. Now I can hear somebody say, but Kenyan politics is tribal. These things don't apply to a place where the politics is tribal, like in Kenya. Well, even in a tribal situation, the basic political dynamics are the same. More so in Kenya, where it is not possible for one tribe to take you to State House. Rift Valley votes alone are not enough to make William Samoei Ruto president, and that should be very obvious. So a conspiracy theory may be very exciting. Yeah, and everybody has a right to come up with their own theories. There's nothing wrong with that. However, there are just too many factors, there are too many reasons to disprove this particular theory. And I've given you only some of them in this video, because there are many other obvious reasons. For instance, the way the two have been behaving towards each other and the things they've done. Even if they're acting, people don't do that. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.